Hey everyone, time for the request video, and I won't do the mega caps again because they're part of the other video. For now, I'll just move forward with the ones I haven't reviewed. And for semis, we have AMD. The thing with semis is that everything's corrected except NVIDIA. But if NVIDIA corrects, it will bring the other semis down as well. So that's kind of the question mark here. But I kind of like where semis are right now, or some of the other names, for example, AMD. But AMD has earnings next week. No, not next week, the week after that. But it will still react to the mega cap earnings. So it could go lower, it could go higher. We don't know yet. But the setup I see here, I kind of like. We don't want to see it break down early next week because otherwise it's going to the next level. So we write at the midpoint of this range here, and if we see a breakdown, we're going to 76. So something like this, and this is the buy point. Support, resistance here, support here, support here, support here, support here, and so on. I don't think it's likely that we break below this level. This is a clear buy, and we should see it break out of the downtrend relatively soon afterwards, and just keep going higher and retest, at least retest of 100. We may actually see an overshoot next time it gets here. In the bullish scenario, if mega cap earnings are good, it's kind of the same thing. We will retest 100, but it's unlikely that it can break through relatively soon. So the same thing happens, but I expect it to stay range bound and just do this for a while longer. Okay, TCM. Same situation, like they're virtually identical. We have this setup here. We have this falling wedge-like structure here. I think it can go a bit lower to retest 84. Resistance here, support, support. It can become support. It can go through it. We don't know yet. It will depend on mega cap earnings. And if we go down, God damn it, I can't click on it correctly. If we go down, we will lose 84. We turn into resistance. Then we go down to 73. 73 is a clear buy, and we should see it go back to 96-ish towards 100 soon, and either for May or for June OPEX. Qualcomm has shown relative weakness, but it has a cleaner structure. Like we're at support here. We have this thing here. Qualcomm is gonna be even more sensitive to earnings next week because aside from the prep towards that earnings, they are highly dependent on what Apple says. So I expect them to go up a lot if Apple has good news, or go down if Apple doesn't have good news. Because it's closer to the lows of this range here, I think it will overshoot. So if it goes down because of Apple earnings, most likely it will be in this range. So bad Apple earnings, we break down, backtest, go here. So basically 100. I would say 100 is the minimum, the maximum we can see. Then it goes back up, and it has relative weakness. So next time it hits here, I think it might get rejected again. Seeing this as well, like this. So 122 is kind of a big level for it. It's not clear right now if we can break above it. AEHR, or whatever the fuck is pronounced. So top here, top here. Will it make it a support? If it makes it a support, it's good news. If it doesn't make it a support, target becomes this 24 area. If this doesn't hold either, then we're in for a huge drop, and I think we will either retest 12 actually 14, this, or as low as this, back to 7. This is quite possible. You see, it's a similar situation to this, and you try to go back up again, but it didn't, and it continued down slowly. This is a repeat of what I expect to see here. Actually, this will be a repeat of this. So continues down, maybe it has a short bounce here. Let's draw it out. So let's say it doesn't hold here. It continues down, has a short-lived bounce up to 26, and if this becomes resistance, the chances are it will break down from the channel. And when it breaks down for the channel, you can do this again, it will break down a lot. And we get to this point where it can hold as well. If this doesn't hold, it will slow drop more and more. It can go as low as this. I would expect it to be uh, over a longer period of time. I do it until September. No, that's pretty okay. So each level here has the potential to become support. If we get a bounce right now, I kind of see something like this happening as well. So it will go back towards the highs. Something like this, and then a larger breakdown later. I think this is playable as a bounce. So this would be 24 up to 27-ish. Regardless of what happens afterwards, if it doesn't hold here and it goes to 24, it's still a buy, and just watch what happens on 27. Uh, it's a okay play to go for this range. 10% play seems pretty good. Given the context with the other semis and that the fact that I expected them to drop, I don't think we will get a bounce next week here. I think we continue breaking down, they have a bounce, get rejected, and we get this play here as low as 18. Every level has to be watched when we get to it. It could become this, go back up, and so on. So every time we get to a critical level, we watch for a bounce or a rejection or continuation. Sorry. Then oil stuff. So PBR. Top here, resistance here, support here, resistance here, and once again resistance here. And we have this big ass long-term channel. I would not say this is bullish. Very similar to some in the other video. I don't see this one going too crazy anytime soon. So first things first, if some pulls back, this will pull back as well. And we have this intermediate level here. This is likely to be support. So it's 1160 to 1080. Might go lower, might not go lower, and then it tries to go up again. It's difficult. I don't have enough experience in evaluating Brazilian stuff. They move in strange ways. So the only thing I would bet on right now is that we get the pullback and we get a bounce on this 1080 level. If not, it's 1040-ish, 1030-ish, 1040-ish. And we should see a retest of 11, 12. After that, I don't know. Okay, coal. This level is important. Support, 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 support. Lost it, then recaptured quickly. We stopped on the way down, failed to bounce, then continued down again. Support, support. And now we have consolidation below it. A rejection, multiple rejections actually. And on Thursday and Friday this week, we got an impulsive move down. I think this will have strength, and it will go down at least to 110. This type of drop is more likely to get a bounce, a strong bounce, than this type of drop, because this is an impulsive move that doesn't stop almost at all. So it tends to create oversold conditions quickly and uh, without any breathers. Because there is no breather, you get to extreme oversold quickly, and then you get strong bounces. But this type of move here, this is the type of move that makes bad lows because you went down, the bounce was anemic, and then you actually start the next leg down. And it was so anemic that we didn't even get a higher low or a significant no, not higher low, lower high, a significant lower high. We actually get range bound consolidation horizontally, which is pretty bad and makes it very weak. So I think this one will go lower, and we might even go low big to below 90, or to this area here at 100. I think the minimum we'll see is this 110, and it might consolidate here for a while, then continue down to 100, maybe even lower to the lows of the range. How big is this? 40. So 40 from here. That checks out. Earnings on Thursday. Bad earnings, good earnings. I don't know. The whole energy sector for me looks like it's a big setup for an earnings sell the news event. What's Let's say we don't go in a recession. If we don't go in a recession, the jobs market stays strong, then we are in a bull market already, like it started in October, let's say. And if we're in a bull market, what's the reasoning in staying in value? Uh, we the more the market believes that we are in a bull market, the more they will shift towards uh, tech and risk on. So every time the energy sector or value stuff goes up, it's an opportunity to sell and take profits. That's why they will not be making significant new highs anytime soon, I believe. So every time there's a reason for the market to go up, for energy name like Arch to go up, or XOM, or anything else, it will be a selling opportunity for the big boys to take profits, get out, and move into tech names. So I don't think even good earnings are a good sign. On good earnings, I think it will just retest 132 and then start dumping again. XC liquidity, I'm not bullish on these names. And a very good example is BTU, because you see this spike here. This was because they announced a shareholder return program. They announced buybacks. They announced I don't know, some other stuff. And what happened? Instead of going up, they announced a dividend. Instead of going up, it got fully sold off, and we are now significantly lower compared to that. Like the initial spike, we are 13% below that, and it only happened on Monday. This is what I mean when I say uh, any spike in energy names will now be used as exit liquidity by the big boys, and they will get out. You only buy these names when they are at the correct price, and the correct price for Arch is a minimum of 110. Ideally 100 because 100 is previous highs. For BTU, this huge ass horizontal range of sideways range, midpoint, top, bottom. I think we're going at the bottom. It has earnings as well. Same reasoning as previously. I think earnings will get us back to 26 maybe, but it will still get sold off and it will go as low as 19. If we get to 19, I think it's a buy. TA wise, it will be a buy for sure. Fundamental wise, probably as well. And we play it until 26 again. If earnings are not as desired, this thing will crater quickly. VTNR, Vertex Energy, VTNR, okay. Why the rejection here on the midpoint? We are at potential support. So what we want to see this, the way you play this when it's at this level, we want to see on lower time frames, we want to see a recapture on a rejection. So for example here, maybe you didn't you were looking at this name and you didn't know what to do. So it went down, you lost this move, it went down again. You watch what happens when it retests the midpoint. And here we have a pretty clear rejection pattern. It tried to go above it and failed multiple times. And then it went down to the lows, to the low of the range. As opposed to here, it broke down. Like I'm comparing this with this. And here it went down, it went back in, tried to go down below again, and it held. So once it holds, it just keeps going up. Same here, it went up above it, it turned into support and then continued up and to the highs of the range, as opposed to here, where it didn't do that. Like this is the bullish version, goes above, becomes support, then it goes to the top. We don't know it goes to the top here, but we're assuming it goes above, support, and then we assume it will go to the top. As opposed to here, where it goes above and it immediately goes back below. This is a red flag, and unless it again goes back above it really quickly in a candle or two, it's not bullish. And we see what happens when it's not bullish. It goes here, then we can see it here as well. It went below, back tested, rejected, and went low. So if we apply the same logic here, we don't know what it will do. It has the potential to go to 540, or it has the potential to go back to 920. So we need to look at whether or not it loses this one. So if it loses, it will backtest. If we get a backtest rejection, we go short and we write it down to 5 or whatever. If it goes back tests and goes back above, then turns it into a support, which it will almost certainly do on lower time frames, we write it to 9. So to make it like this is the rejection scenario, and this is the recovery scenario. CLF. I kind of like CLF. Still think it goes a bit lower. So low here, low here, low here. This is one overshoot. We don't care about it. It's fine. Then low here, rejection here, rejection here, rejection here, support here. And now we are retesting, but we are slightly below it. Using the same logic as explained before, what do we want to see? We want to see a quick recapture of this level. It's unlikely to come. This looks more like a rejection to me, and we have to write it down to 13 most likely. Kind of it. If it recaptures, again, we go long on the retest of 16. And if it actually holds, we can ride it to 19. I'm not too sure about this channel. Like, it might be wrong. SLCA. So we have this trend line here. We can say we have this one here as well. Maybe not from there, but from here. Yeah, something like this. And again, referencing what I said earlier, we are consolidating above, but if this fails to hold, and we can look at lower time frames, this doesn't look particularly encouraging. It doesn't have a bias yet, but I think it will go lower. So if it goes lower, it will backtest once, and then it goes to 10.05. If it goes up, I would expect this to be sort of a fake breakout. So goes up, I think it will get rejected at 14 again, then backtest, and then it has the big move up. UUUU, quadruple U. Bottom of the range, this was good-ish. This looks pretty nice actually. Bullish divergence here on the weekly. It's also on the daily, but not as clear, or not necessarily. So have it like this. So kind of a pennant. This is as low as it can go, or 40 if it somehow breaks down. I don't really see it doing that. I think it just continues to do this for a while, and once that happens, it will do this, or it will do this, but the upside is a lot bigger than the downside. UAN. Speaking of what I mentioned earlier, what is this? We have an overshoot to this level, went back up, we recapture, and now is the big test of whether or not it becomes support or not. And I think it will become support. What we should be seeing here is this, and ride it to 103.66, or at least that level. I think it can go to 116.17 quite easily. But this is kind of the good setup here, and we can, if we draw like another level here, because it is a smaller level, the same thing happened. So we went back above it, No, it's actually, let's like this. And when we go to the lower time frame, we lost this level. We went above, we overshot above this high here. So the trend changed. And then we turn it into support, consolidation, consolidation, support again, went above. Now we turn this one into support and it should go up. I like this, what this one looks like. Gold. Gold is not bullish from my point of view. GLD, not gold. So rising wedge. Top of the range, we have overshoot, overshoot, overshoot. And once we get below it, we will do one back test like here. Here we had multiple ones, but eventually it broke down. And I think it's quite reasonable to see a retest of the mid zone again. Breakdown, then I don't know. It depends on what happens in the economy with dollars and everything else. But this is kind of it. Oil. So finally got that back test. Horizontal level, rejection, support here, 51.38. That's enough. So support here, this it went above it, support here, resistance, 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 resistance. We overshot. Let's look at hourly if we got a back test, and we did. So we were above it, we got back in, tried to go above a couple of times, it didn't work, and what do we get next? We get a breakdown. And most likely the breakdown is not over, and we will actually retest this 75 level next week. I think 75 holds, but I'm not too confident about it breaking above 82 here. So same reasoning as SOM and or other oil names. I think we will get this ascending wedge and eventually we get a breakdown. PBT. So there were two tickers which are at all-time high, and this was one of them, or close to all-time high. We have this channel here, and it's showing we're relatively close to the top, and we have this range here. So from here to here, and we double up to get our target, and we can see that we are very close to the target. It aligns with the channel top. So I don't think it can continue going up much higher, or actually it has to have a pullback to be able to go higher. We have a pretty big divergence here as well. The weekly doesn't look great either. We have this trend line here, and we are close to tagging it again and getting rejected. Considering that it's at all-time high, RSI is relatively low at only 62. We would like to see this much higher. So I don't see this continuing up much more. Maybe an exhaustive move to 28 or something like that, but then it should correct. And the target is this level here at 21.22, like this all-time high, previous all-time high. And it's a range, so it should be something like anywhere in this area can be the target. So something like this. back up, and I don't know. NEO. I like NEO quite a lot. Bullish divergence on weekly and bullish trend on RSI. Down, this goes up. It has this unfilled gap at 799. It went up as low as 806, I believe. I really want to see it go below 8 briefly, and that should be a good buying opportunity. Rejected support, resistance, resistance, resistance. Then we are here at the first attempt to go below. It's just this gap area here that I think is going to become support. Also some previous highs when it did the IPO. If it loses it, it goes to 6. But I don't think it will have that big of an overshoot. So I would just like to see it go to like 780 or something like that. And it's a very nice buy for the longer term. Tesla, I already talked about it in the other video. Then we get to clean energy and we have Nova. This was the first time seeing this ticker for me. Has a nice falling wedge longer term. We had an overshoot here and recapture. So we went below it, recapture relatively quickly, go back down, turn into support, and then it goes up, has a breakout here, kind of a rejection candle on Friday with a big wick up. So would not be surprised to see it retest this area here as well to turn into support, but it looks relatively bullish for the longer term. RSI is kind of oversold, like it's a bullish hidden bearish divergence. So RSI trend line looks like this, but price looks like this. So RSI is overextended relative to price. This means RSI will turn down soon, and if RSI turns down, it means price will turn down. So I would expect it to drop before it goes higher, potentially even get back in the channel, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's another buying opportunity. So I think every time we get to below 15, it's a potential buying opportunity, and for the long run, it will go back up at least to 20. Most likely retest 25 by June, I would say. By June, I mean by June, end of June. Do end phase? Oh, I did it. Okay, so end phase. We have this lower trend line here, more like this. RSI is also hidden bearish divergence. Huge incline here, and here it's flat. So I would assume it goes back down. This is kind of the midpoint. Sorry. Something like this. Retest here, and then go back up. Then it actually becomes support, and we go to 258, 260. This is the previous high. There's a lot of intermediary levels for this one, like this. This one is important as well. This high is here, the lows here. This is what I think will hold. I might readjust this a bit later. Maybe the actual level, the important level might be this. Actually, this low, mid-ish, maybe a bit lower, something like this. And this is the high where these lows were. This was just an overshoot. FSLR, this one is complicated. It's not at all-time high, or not all-time, at recent high. All-time high was a bit higher. And it also has a lot of levels based on historical precedent. And it has earnings next week. Most likely earnings will decide what happens to it. Let's look at these levels. Why did I put them here? So high here, prices here. So next level will be this high and this low. So this is probably the level, the target level on earnings, a positive reaction. This, which looks decent. Did a breakout? Counted, yeah. So 235. Still looks super extended if it gets to 245. Support will be this trend line, most likely. So assuming we get a bullish reaction, we continue going up, maybe as high as 255. And when we get a breakdown, go to 200-ish. And a breakdown now, we are 216, is still, it should be lower, it should be this 175, 180-ish, this area here. Right at the gap fill. As always, depends on earnings. Blog, I really like from a TA standpoint. My bad. So we fill this gap here. It's at the demand zone. Could go slightly lower. This is where it starts. So 813 is the minimum we can see. And when it starts to go up, I'm assuming this name is very shorted. So it will have a huge squeeze going on when it breaks above. I really like this name. Hadn't looked at it in a really long time. Like this. It's prone to squeezes. It has a huge short interest. I would assume any type of good news will make it go up quite a lot and quite fast. We're not surprised to see a double up within 2 weeks, as soon as it starts going up. Intermediate levels are this. That's about it. So first is 12-ish, then it goes to 15-ish, then it goes to 19-ish. I'm gonna buy something for this on Monday, for just the potential for a squeeze play. It's a lotto. Don't give a shit that it doesn't move immediately. We'll buy like 1 or 2 months out and just wait it out and see for the potential of a squeeze. Okay, healthcare. CVS. Like CVS a lot as well. So as an example of what I meant by hidden bearish divergence, see this is a slight decline, but the decline between here and here is huge. So it's about the difference. It doesn't mean that one has to go up and the other has to go down. And we had a slight correction here. We're retesting the lows, and it has the potential to go as low as this level here, which is 69 point something. It has this trend line has a potential support when we get to it. So the confluence between these two, I think, makes it a sure bounce when we get to 69. Not to mention the bullish divergence, which is large. Using the wrong thing. So this one, weekly, visible as well. Divergence. I tried to play long again, got stopped out for a small profit. Will look to re-enter again next week. I think earnings may turn this around. All the other major health names have gone up already. CVS is the last one that hasn't recovered, but it's starting to look better and better. It's a matter of time before it starts to go up again. And the targets are pretty decent. Like first one would be, this is a major one. Low, low, resistance, 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 support, support, support. So when this thing turns, I would expect we will see 88 relatively soon. Let's assume that we get an overshoot below this 72 level, and this will actually be the low, and we get an overshoot to 69-ish, like this. Then it comes back in, support, and then it just goes. And the first level is probably going to be around here, and then it keeps going to 88 towards 90. Might be a bit of an overshoot as well, and then go back down. But this is the range I expect. Like this. XBI. Particularly bullish, but not bearish either. RSI is overextended, so pull back, then back up. We should see 91 eventually. Okay, this one was the most complicated one because it's an all-time high. So what I did was two things. First, we have a channel here on regular view, and top, 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 turned into support here, bottom, 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 then it went up, and it hit the target, the double up channel target. So it should be very, very close to turning again. Plus, we have a huge bearish divergence here. Uh, this is usually a sign of impending reversal. Secondly, we do a log chart as well on the entire time frame. Did I already draw it maybe? No. So let's do weekly. So like I can see everything. I forgot how I drew it. Something like this. Okay. So top, 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 overshoot back in, top turned into support, and that's it. And then we doubled this one as well. You can see even on the log chart, we are very close to hitting the target for the top of the channel. And that would be somewhere around 185, 190. So it's potentially possible to do a huge spike up, I'm assuming based on earnings in 2 weeks time, if they have very good earnings and like it does a 10% day up, but that is a 100% short setup because uh, there is no way it can go any higher than this without pulling back. Like long term, we don't know, but short term, any type of move above 180 is a short, and even in the very short term, like if I were to take a position on this on Monday, it would be a short, not a long. Okay, this one, earnings next week. Dana hair. Support. Highs, lower highs. Kind of turned. What happened here, I wonder? I don't like it that much. I think it will retest this 240 level again. I don't know anything about it. It could go up, could go down. A breakdown will take it to 220. 220 is a buy. Don't know enough about it to make any other call besides this. Moderna. So you see the range here before it broke out, and now we're in the same range, consolidating, doing nothing. And we just went below the range. I think we will see the bottom. The bullish version is it goes up and then it goes down, and the bearish version is it just goes down. Either way, 120-ish is a buy most likely, and uh, if it goes up, we look for a short between 150 and 155. TMO. Range bound. We are at mid-range approximately. So a retest of the mid-range, but with a lower high. This kind of speaks of a drop to the bottom of the range. We had a bounce, earnings next week. Depends on earnings, obviously. I don't know, it's hard to call things right before earnings. I would not assume a breakout. There is nothing to tell us that the market will not stay range bound for the foreseeable future. So this is the bullish case, I would assume, and the bearish case turned into resistance, then it goes down. More of the same. Keeping Continuation down. Most likely the mid-range, not the as low as the bottom of the range. Not a lot to say about it other than that. GSL. So GSL just got rejected big time, so for sure we will be seeing 18 point something. Then depending on the reaction to this, we could do this, then go back up, or just go below and go to the bottom. I haven't followed the shipping that much lately, but I remember seeing some bad news like freight recession, stuff like that this week. So I would assume it goes lower rather than higher. This, then up, and should see 47 again. Rejection, lower high. We have this for sure. And then again, maybe we go back up, maybe we go back down. This looks like a rejection of the mid area. See how it curls down? And now it will do this. Like it tried once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and now it's back below it. This is not that strong, and this one has the look of a last backtest before the breakdown. The range is this. Overshoot. So we fill this gap here. It is a horizontal area as well, but not a major one. Support, 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 but break down. And now potentially decision point again. But given how big this this gap is between the highs, I think it's weaker. So would assume it goes to 74. Back below, maybe overshoot a bit and then up. This will be bullish divergence as well. It won't be that. So what's the low? The low is this. So this was this low, and this will, even if it goes lower, it will probably stop around here. So we already know that we will have a bullish divergence and it will go back up. And I would assume Baba will see 120 by end of June. Google, I did in another video. Crowdsource. So crowdsource, speaking same thing as ADY. Yes, it has this rejection look to it at this intermediate level, which might not be intermediate, it might be the actual level. It's sort of the midpoint between this and this. So seeing this rejections once, twice, 3, 4, and the fourth one was with an impulsive move. Maybe we get one more, but then we should see this. And then decision time might go lower. I don't really see any reason for it to go that low. Plus, this is the midpoint as well, the mid area. I don't really see it going lower than 110. Back up 140-ish. The net range is on Thursday. I have doubts that earnings will play out differently than this. Like it went up, but still got rejected. Not necessarily that it goes up, but if it goes up, the history is likely to repeat itself and it will go down back to 55-ish. Rejected here, it will try again for sure. Then depending on earnings, it might do another move up like this and then get rejected again. Or it might just go down directly here. A negative reaction to earnings probably send us back to 40. Up. The range is pretty clear. DraftKings. DraftKings range as well, pretty clear. And we had a bit of a breakout last week from this flag. And it's trying to go above this high as well. Also has earnings in 2 weeks, not next week. Difficult to call as well. I think the maximum we can reach is the all-time high AVWAP. I had this one drawn for a while, but I don't know, seems a stretch to see it do it now. If this squeeze continues, I think we see 24 and then a rejection. It's sports betting really, I don't know enough about it. Like for example with this is Q1 earnings. Is there a seasonality to sports betting like with the Super Bowl happening in February or whenever it was? Do they get more revenue in Q1 than usual? So bullish case this, then down to here. Bearish case, immediate rejection down to here, then back up. Depending on the earnings situation, it has the potential to go back to the lows of the range. Match I liked because this and similar to plug. I'm assuming this is a very shorted name. So could see an overshoot to 32-ish. Something like this. Exactly like we had here. Even lower actually. Let's say 33. It's too low. This. So 43.5. But this is very close to breaking out. And when it does, it will have momentum, it will have shorts covering, so it should squeeze quite a lot. This is actually pretty similar to DraftKings here. Like this is a type of breakout that happens in this highly shorted names, even if the market is not super bullish. So when match goes crazy and it breaks out, it will do so in a big way and price will move very quickly. I think it can get to 51 very, very fast, like this level of fast, this level of fast for a short, a quick squeeze up. What? How big was this? 20%. It seems small, but it's 20%. Roblox. Not a big fan of the Roblox. I see this more going down than going up. I think it will retest this 37, 38 range, a level, and potentially go above it. And this is to watch if it becomes resistance, because if it becomes resistance, it will go to the lows of the range. Not really interested in holding this name long unless it's at 25 or lower. ASTS. So we had a retest of the lows on a bullish divergence. Not that much actually, just very, very small. Don't think it's done yet, so a retest is quite possible, but then should go back up again and go as high as 7. If some bullish news comes out, it might go very, very high, but other than that, there is no reason to believe that we will break out of this range. Wing, the most hated stocks, Wing and Nvidia, I think. So, huge rising wedge, top of the channel, bearish divergence, earnings coming up. Question for this one is how much does it pull back when it does pull back? And my guess is 150. Does it have earnings? May 2nd on FOMC day. Like this. Art. Top, 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 top. Breakout, but didn't go much. Top and overshoot, top and overshoot most likely. I would expect that their margins have been even worse lately than in Q4. So earnings reaction should be negative, and that should be enough to give us a retest of the low of the range. So I would expect that we do stay a bit around this range for a while until earnings, and then we get a negative reaction. We go here, retest, go here, and then go back up. Dollar Tree. Similar setup, but it's even weaker than Walmart. Support, support, rejection, rejection. And now we are coming up on a retest of this level, but on a bearish divergence. So let's say we go as high as this, but this will be something like this, and price will be equal high. This is a setup for a drop, and target is 134. Top, top, support, 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 top, a bit of an overshoot, top, a bit of an overshoot, And here we are again. Is there any reason to believe that we will break the range? Well, is the market going to break the range? Most likely not. So LULU will not break the range as well. Maybe it goes a bit above, then it goes back down. I think this one will overshoot on the downside even if it doesn't go to the lows because it has this gap to fill and it will go for it. Then maybe it goes down, maybe it recaptures and goes back to the highs. Again, no reason to assume that anything that is stuck in a range at the moment will break out of that range anytime soon. What was this one? Oh, MVX. Okay. So support, resistance. Then it broke out and went up a lot. Resistance here, resistance, and making lower highs. This is actually more constructive than the other names because it's holding the 50% RSI and it's sufficient enough of a pullback to actually be a wedge. So this could actually go for it and try to break out again like this. And the same thing happens to price. We have a bit of a flag here, and I'm more bullish on this one than the other names that had a similar setup. And this is the target, I think. Wait, actually, I didn't draw it. Let's see. This, yes, the gap fill and the previous tops. This is the gap fill, so this is the target. So I'm assuming 17, 18 towards 18 will be the target if it breaks this high. So pretty constructive one. I like it more than the others for a breakout because what I think is that the range is not complete. I think the range will become this. G, another crazy one that hasn't corrected at all, and it's time to correct. This is not bullish. On the weekly, it's fine, but whatever. This is not bullish. It has a rising wedge. Very, very steep. I think the same reasoning as value applies to it in that any kind of move up beyond this point will be used as exit liquidity. The top of the move is 104 and shorting with like 3 months to 6 months duration should be pretty profitable in the long run. This. So bullish case 104, 105. Then it should have a big breakdown to at least 80 area. Then we will see. Let's see the drop to the 80 area first. SOFI. So luckily for SOFI, oh, no, it wasn't SOFI, it was something else that to say. Another one that is range bound. No reason to assume that we are not range bound. This curling behavior says drop, and most likely we will drop here, turn into a support. This will be a bullish divergence when we get to that, like this, and this will look like this. This is a buy between 404.8 and 5, and then we should expect at least a retest of the mid area, but most likely a retest of the highs, depending on how the banking sector does as well. Okay, this one really confused me. I have no idea what it is. I mean, I read what it is, a real estate investment trust. Why I thought it was funny is because it looks exactly like CRE. to right scale, and it's virtually identical. Why did the real estate investment trust drop with regional banks? I have no idea, but it did, and I would assume it will move in sync with the regional banks. So if you think regional banks will go up, I don't know, go for it. If not, it doesn't look that encouraging because it used to be in this range, dropped here, this range, but now we went below it, and it's backtesting and getting rejected. So it suggests more downside, potentially as low as 8.8-ish in this area here. This the previous tops from 217 and 218. So I don't really see it as bullish, and that also speaks of regional banks as well, and IWM. So this is not a bullish look, or it is short-term bullish, but all of this is actually a hidden bearish divergence. You see, this was a higher price was higher, but RSI was lower. And even though we're getting a somewhat of a bullish divergence on the lower side, we're also getting a hidden bearish divergence on the upper side because price is doing this versus RSI doing this. And I think this one is more important because it when you don't want to see RSI get very high when price is this low, because it means it has a lot of room to go down again. Like if RSI was here, uh, it could drop a lot as low as this. So this is kind of what is happening now, and getting to 50% level on RSI would be a very big red flag. It would actually mean this, the retest of the low getting rejected and going back to the next level, which is 8.8-ish. Where Square is complicated. I honestly will not play Square right now. I mean, I like it more or less. It looks decent, but after the Hindenburg piece, I don't know if I would play it because they would have to justify a lot during earnings, and they will be hunted during earnings with questions and stuff like that. Other than that, range bound, I would like to see it in the overshoot gap level range before buying, like going like this. Rather than buying here. I'm not a fan of buying this here. I prefer Neo. I prefer what there were a couple of bullish ones. I don't remember. There's been too many. Plug. I prefer Plug for a squeeze play. Neo looks much better, and it doesn't have any other problems aside from what the TA shows. What else was there? For like speculative risk on thing. Match, yeah. Match and Plug and Neo look much better than Square for TA-based squeeze play, because this one will also be squeezed when it eventually breaks out. But I would prefer to wait until it goes to 50-55 rather than buying at 60. This looks too expensive to me, and it's not a clean setup versus the other three. It looks okayish, but there are better plays out there. And I think that's it. Whew, that was a lot. So I'll try to make some timestamps for the video. Hopes you guys liked it. It was really tiring, but it's worth it, I think. Have a good week. Bye bye.